Hi, my name is Brian Mattingly. Have you ever wondered where your food comes from? Do you have an interest in gardening, agriculture, or conservation of natural resources? Everything in the natural world ties together. Today, I'm going to explain how you can play an active role in working with the earth to grow your own food and replenish the nutrients to the soil. So, to start off with, basically, the way that I think about soil conservation is, everything kind of depends on um, your food source. And without a good source of food, without a healthy source of food, everything just kind of would die. So, it's pretty important that we take care of that source for us and keep it healthy and going strong. Some examples of when we didn't do that would be, the Dust Bowl. Farmers kind of just didn't know a whole lot about replacing nutrients in the soil, and we just kind of grew and grew and grew, and basically turned the soil into a big pile of dried out waste, and it can really destroy a piece of land if you don't put something back into it. There's several ways of rehabilitating soil, and you want to do this after really every year. You want to do it after you grow anything. Like, say, if you have a garden in your backyard, you want to take part in composting, which is one of the ways that we have of soil conservation. Another way would be to burn your garden at the end of the season, or if you have a bigger piece of land, like, say, if you had a big cornfield, several hundred acres or whatever, a lot of people will spread manure on their fields, and that's a way you can do that. Um, so to start off with, for composting, composting is a method of soil conservation that involves microorganisms, the soil, natural vegetation, and a process of gradual decay and release of nutrients. And there's two different types. You got cold and hot. So I'm going to go over right now the differences between those two. Cold composting is it's probably the easiest. Like, if you're a home gardener or something, it really doesn't require a whole lot of energy to get started. But what it does require is some time, and it just takes a while to break everything down. What you're doing basically in cold composting is you take a container. They make compost rotators, or you can just even use a big plastic barrel. You want to take, like, your kitchen waste, anything that you can put in a salad, you want to take out. You can, use potato peels. I use eggshells, potato peels, anything that you can eat, basically, besides meat. You can use coffee grounds, garden waste, anything, pretty much. And you just throw that all together in a big pile, in a big lump inside of your container, and basically it'll just break down over a period of about a year or so. It does take a while for it to break down and become useful, because with that, just dumping it in a big pile, it doesn't get a whole lot of air flow, and it doesn't give the microorganisms inside of there a chance to really speed up the process of breaking down the soil. So basically what you'll have then at the end of that, because that's the method that I use. I have a good sized garden outside that I grow every year. This is some compost that I have going. This is only about 6 months old or so, but that's potato peels, coffee grinds, lettuce. You can even see there's like a little piece of a corn cob in there. We pretty much throw any sort of vegetable matter in the composter, but that's what you end up with almost. It's almost broken down to the point where you could use it. And basically, once it starts to look like dirt, really dark dirt, that's when you can till it back into the soil. Another method of composting is hot composting, and the difference between cold and hot is the temperature, clearly. And the temperature the warm temperature in hot composting is gained by laying down a layer of, you got your brown material and you got your green material, and you want to layer those on top of each other in succession to create a hot compost pile. This is the more labor intensive side of things for composting, but it does not take as much time for everything to break down. So you take like a layer of dead leaves, you got dead leaves, tree limbs, dead corn stalks, anything brown, dried out, and dead is your base layer. Then on top of that, you can throw live leaves, you can throw kitchen waste like I was just talking about, things like that. You can do, and you want to layer that on top of each other. You want to create a big pile all at the same time of these layers, and that's why the home gardener doesn't always have this method, is because you don't always have 100 pounds of kitchen waste and live vegetables to throw in a layer all at once, or make several layers. So it is labor intensive, and but it does create faster results, because what the layering does is it creates a big airflow in there with the dead materials. It gives it kind of a big fluffy texture, air pocket. So the microorganisms in there can really speed up, and that's what creates the heat, is the microorganisms in there basically working so hard they put off an amount of heat. So that breaks things down faster. The last and probably least time consuming and probably most fun method of soil conservation and soil stewardship is creating biochar, or just charcoal, or just burning off your garden basically. And what that does, you basically create a bonfire in your garden area. At the end of the season, once everything's dead and you've pulled everything out, you want to just take all the corn cobs, corn stalks, tree limbs, anything dead, firewood, anything to create wood and plant ash. And you just burn it, and that'll create lumps like this. This is a lump of real charcoal, not like the kind you buy in the grocery store. That's a lump of wood that's almost all the way burned down, and that traps a lot of carbon, and if you till that into the soil, it's really good for it. It creates a dark, nutrient rich soil. So those are all the ways. You got your cold composting, hot composting, and biochar, or burning off your garden. So like I said, it's really important that you can replace the nutrients that your plants consume in the soil, because every time you grow something, it's basically eating up the nutrients in the soil. So you want to have a way to replace that. So that would be the ways I just explained, and it's a pretty important topic, especially if you're into growing things like I am. It's a hobby of mine, and I like to keep it going, see how good I can do every year. So it's important to replace those nutrients. I hope you guys learned something. I always learn. That's what it's all about. So thanks.